Hello, everyone. This is Ellen Rogan, and I am so excited to be here with you today on today's edition of Horse's Mouth Live. As always, I have fabulous guests who have incredible information to help you grow in every part of your life, especially your business, and today is no exception. We are going to talk today about different ways to communicate with confidence, uh, some things that you may not have been aware of, or styles for this that can really help your work with your clients, not to mention your personal relationships. So we're going to be focusing on business relationships today. And more than ever, this is so important now. We're communicating with clients pretty much virtually or over the phone. Most of us don't get to see people in person. And so it's highlighted how fabulous our communication skills are, or maybe how less than excellent they are. So we have a perfect person to talk with us about this today. And our guest is Yvonne Silver. And let me give you a little bit about her background. Yvonne and I met through an organization called the Evolutionary Business Council, which is this beautiful group that we're both members of. That's a global group of thought leaders. And Yvonne is not only a writer, she is an author of a best-selling book um, about communication. She's a speaker, an executive coach. She was formerly in the HR world in corporate America, and she currently coaches and mentors visionaries, entrepreneurs, and leaders to flourish in their business. She calls herself a business growth catalyst, which is, I love that word, catalyst. And she does a lot of this by helping people master their authentic voice and have powerful and confident conversations. And I don't really think there's anything more important as we're working with clients or you're in sales than your ability to communicate powerfully. So, Yvonne, welcome. I'm so thrilled to have you here on Horse's Mouth Live.
Well, thanks, Ellen, for the invitation. You're doing amazing work, and this is just one great way to spread some important information. So thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, so when we were talking a couple of weeks ago, and you brought up this area of expertise for you, which is appreciative inquiry. And you have really refined this in terms of the sales process, calling it appreciative sales kinetics. It reminded me that years ago, I had read about appreciative inquiry and was so fascinated by the positivity and the optimistic style of it, and the really non manipulative way you can use this to build relationships. Was so excited to be able to have this conversation with you. So I think most people, or many people, are not familiar with this concept. Well, so we used to just start by sharing, like, what is appreciative inquiry and what is appreciative sales kinetics?
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a concept that was developed a number of years ago by David Cooperrider. And when I was researching for my best-selling book, Words, Women, and Wisdom, The Modern Art of Confident Conversations, I was looking at what are the 40 different words and word concepts that my clients keep asking me about over and over again. And one of the key things that has been most helpful, particularly for anyone who's a business entrepreneur or in sales, is the concept of having a modern approach, a positive psychology approach to having sales conversations. So instead of the very traditional old method of, tell me about your biggest challenge, what's keeping you up at night, what is your biggest pain point? I mean, really, nobody wants to talk about something that they created that is a negative. They want to talk about what's working really well. And so I massaged two of David Cooperrider's 4 questions in appreciative inquiry and have coined it appreciative sales kinetics. So basically what it is about appreciating what's working well already and then inquiring into how could it be even better. So that's the question, is instead of tell me about your biggest challenge, I start my conversations with, I'm interested to learn more about you and your business. Can you tell me what's working really well? So they share, and we're in this positive, energetic state. We're not seeing the person's shoulders slump forward and their head drop. They're talking about this horrible thing that's keeping them awake. And then the next question is, and how could it be even better? And then they share again about their future goals and their future vision and what they're striving for or what they're reaching for. And that's when I can then say, it sounds as though I might be able to help you get where you want to go faster. Can I share a little bit about what I'm servicing, what I'm offering, and how my services might be able to dovetail with yours? And then it literally is a dovetailing. It's a co-creative conversation that we get into after I've talked about what my services can do to support their needs and their goals and where they're going. And I never have any objections because there's nothing to object to. We're co-creating a future state that's even better than where they were planning on going by themselves. And that's the appreciative sales kinetics approach.
Gosh, I so love that. Now, I imagine there's someone out there listening who's like, yeah, but I know when I get to their pain point and I can solve it, that they're going to look at me as like the savior of this, and that we know those sales tactics work. Like, um, even though what you're saying feels better, there's two parts to this question. Is it as effective? And how has it been for people that have gone kind of the more old school way of this is how I've always dealt with sales conversations? And I think the one you described is pretty typical in the financial planning, financial advisory world. Like, what isn't
Mhm,
working? What keeps you up at night is a question I've heard advisors say. So talk to
mhm,
us a little bit about like the effectiveness and how maybe it works for someone to switch to a different style.
mhm. Well, basically, if your style is working for you, then why switch, right? I'm a big proponent of doing things better, not changing things up just for the sake of change. If you're not seeing the shoulders slump forward and the head dropping and the disappointment in your clients or potential clients' faces when you ask that question of, tell me about your biggest challenge, great. For me, that's what happened. And literally, I saw my sales ratio change, my close ratio change to 85% when I started using the appreciative sales kinetics approach. And the other thing I love about it is if you're going to build a long-term relationship with a client, and I call them clients as opposed to customers because it is that nurturing long-term relationship that I'm building, then you want to start off in a place of positive energy. You don't want to start off in this negative ickiness. I mean, it's great to know that you're the savior, but at the end of the day, is it about you or is it about serving your client?
Yeah, and what when you were describing someone slumping over or feeling like that, I think people have so much shame when it comes to their money, whether it's deserved or not. Like, we people are goofy when it comes to money, and just because we've all been brought up with different beliefs. And so in those conversations where an advisor is talking to someone about, what keeps you up at night, what worries, we know that money keeps people up at night. You almost don't even have to ask that. But this idea of having a more optimistic conversation, what I'm envisioning is how beautiful that is, that this client or prospect, hopefully turning into a client, will associate you with feeling better and positive versus, I remember when I had my practice, sometimes people would come in so worried. It was almost like they were going to the dentist expecting the pain.
Yeah,
And then after a while, they like exhaled and felt better after a conversation with me. But there's a lot of anxiety that can come up. And so has that been your experience? Like, how have people felt as a result of these conversations?
yeah. Well, I haven't directly been involved in the selling financial services, although I've been on the receiving end. And a lot of times it's a bundle with financial investments. It's also got life insurance, and there's a lot of products. And I very often felt that I was being fire hosed. And to me, the opportunity for a great sales relationship and serving our customers is when we use our two ears and our one mouth to listen more than we talk. And so that starts the conversation off when you're appreciating what's working really well. They will tell you, oh, but this is not working. This is where I'm feeling frustrated. This is because they know you're a financial advisor, you're an expert in your field, and that's why you're there to have that conversation. We don't need to poke at them and get them all embarrassed and shameful to be able to bring to light what they really want to talk about.
Um, yeah, and that is, when you were describing that like a fire hose of products, I think that many advisors feel like they need to evidence their expertise. like, no, I am the expert, I am the advisor. And we have, I think you know Lisa Dad from the Evolutionary Business Council. She was a guest earlier. I don't know, it wasn't the summer, it was right at the start of the COVID issues. And what she said is actually being an advisor, having that title, and I think this was Lisa that said this, and I apologize if it was a different guest, is actually like a hindrance because we take on this advisor role. And what I'm hearing you say is this idea of co-creating a future. Yes, of course, your advisor really really helps to launch a relationship that'll make sense for the long term.
Yeah. I think that financial advisor is the popular term. So when you say financial advisor, people get it right away. However, I would encourage all of the advisors to be putting a new twist on it, to think of themselves as a financial coach. So by doing that, it's about helping them to become independent. It's about helping them have better practices themselves so that they can have success. And at the same time, the tools that they're using are going to be your tools. They're going to be your financial products. The other thing is being very conscious that when you ask that question, what's working really well, that you're not going into telling mode and starting to fire hose with information. Because I've certainly had that even at networking meetings where I'll ask, so what do you do? And the person launches into their pitch and it's like 5 minutes. And I'm like, whoa, hang on a second. I'm backed up against the wall now. And so, what I do is when people say, well, what do you do? I say, I teach people to flourish in business, women in particular, and help them to have more sales and have an empowered team. And then I stop talking. And if they want more, they'll ask me. I don't keep talking at them. It's a conversation. It's a two-way communication. And if they feel invited to the conversation, then they're going to keep asking for more, asking for more. Because we really don't need to beat people over the head, is my thinking around sales.
Yeah, I think that a lot of this has to do with some self awareness also, as someone who's talking to people like, are you fire hosing them? Are you talking too much about themselves? I mean, I think that most professionals know you're not supposed to talk too much about yourself, but is that part of the process that you've always done? Like people sit down, well, let me tell you about me. And to really relook at that. So, as you said, if it's working fine, I would encourage you to say, well, what would happen if I try this? What even
Mm-hmm.
this question isn't so weird, like what's working well. It's not like you're asking sometimes there's programs I've seen that there's just some odd question that just doesn't feel authentic. But I can't imagine anyone feeling like that was a difficult question to ask. What's working well? What would
Mm-hmm.
make it even better? Yeah.
Yeah, because ultimately we all know that everyone likes to talk about themselves. So you're giving them that opportunity. And most of them, if they have a financial question, are going to orient what's working really well towards what's happening in their finances that's working really well. But if it doesn't, it again gives you more information. They're talking about their family all the time. They're talking about their promotion all the time. They're talking about this, their trouble with their grandma or whatever it is. So it gives you so much more information to tailor your products towards because they're telling you what's important to them.
That's great. One last question about this, and then I want to make sure we talk about this really interesting personality test that you've gotten involved in. Um, do you ever have someone just go, "Oh my God, nothing's working now, everything's a mess," and they start like cycling down this difficult path that is kind of the opposite of what you had hoped they would go down?
Um, I've had I've had somebody have a meltdown when it's something that's clearly very emotional, very top of mind, very much on the surface for them. That would probably have happened if I'd have said, "What's your greatest challenge and what's keeping you up at night as well?" And so in that case, I always, as a coach, I always have a box of tissue, a packet of tissues in my handbag anyway. But I will let them vent enough to get it out of their system, and then I'll just say, "Okay, let's just stop for a second and breathe." So I'm trained in Reiki as well as executive coaching and chartered HR. So a lot of people skills. Okay, we've got that piece out of the way. It's kind of like letting the pressure out of a steam kettle, right? So now let's actually talk about some potential solutions. You've shared a lot about what's not working. let's talk about some potential solutions. Where do you really want to see success? What's most important right now? If we could turn things around, what would that look like?
Yeah, and I just want to point to something that you said for advisors. And I imagine most of you out there do this, but I know when I was meeting with clients, I had a round table that I would meet with them on, and I had a side table. And I always had this
Yeah.
right there, a box of Kleenex. And then it wasn't like this whole big deal, like, let me get up, and then they feel weird for crying. You know that they're comfortable. Not that you want people crying in your office, but you need to make it okay when that happens. And if that happened at a first meeting, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing, this person's feeling really comfortable with me. And that's a great thing. Not that, again, you want people upset, but that there's
Mhm.
this comfort level that it's okay. And by having tissues nearby, it just reinstates, like, there's nothing weird about the fact you're doing this. People do this, and here's some Kleenex. So
Yeah. It's
good.
also similar to when I was interviewing in my HR career. I interviewed and hired about 6,000 people. And so that rapport building before they got into the interview, because job interviews are one of the most stressful things in people's lives, other than public speaking as well. So I would always have tissues, but I'd always have something else on the table, a little plant, a pen and a note paper or sticky notes and the tissues. So it wasn't like an obvious thing that they were going to need tissues.
Okay, good point. Thank you. Very well taken. So when you and I set up our connection call a few weeks ago, we had met before, but really hadn't had an opportunity to connect. And um, you, as part of your scheduling process, had me take a this personality assessment test. And it was fascinating. I've done a lot of these. I have a whole drawer of tests because I find them interesting. Some of them are like, nah, this was a whole different animal. So, talk to us a little bit about how you got involved in this, how you see it's useful, and a little bit more so we can understand why this might be different than some of the things that advisors have experienced for themselves or maybe their team before.
Yeah. Well, with COVID, I mean, I was certainly taking the opportunity to refresh my business plan, pivot a little bit in my business, and looking at where else could I shore up my coaching education, because my executive coach training is now 10 years ago. So I got invited to a information masterclass with a colleague of mine. And I was fascinated right away because I've done a lot of personality style tests in my human resources work that are based on psychology. And then I learned about this bank personality assessment, which is based on what they call biology, Buyology. And it's the only test that is out there that is scientifically validated, and it's based on buying behavior. So when you take the personality style test, it's 90 seconds. It gives you an opportunity to sort your values into one of four categories. So I'll just show you this, a little bit of rustling here, but basically there's actually four different personality types, and they're all very different. So they're color coded. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So with the action type personality, for example, you've probably run across some of these people in your office as well. They are very much oriented towards freedom, flexibility, spontaneity, winning, great image, competitive, excitement and opportunity really fires them up. They love being on the red carpet. Those are your action type people. And there's a picture of a microphone there. Whereas if your personality came out as a blueprint personality, you would be more stable, structured. You love systems, you love planning and processes and predictability. You like to know people's title. You like to have high levels of responsibility, and rules and duty are very important. So as you can see, just by looking at those two personalities, they're quite different. So if I was sending information to you as an action-oriented person, red coded person, then I would just send you the highlights. I would make sure that it came with the sizzle, with the opportunity, the absolute bare bones of what is exciting and interesting and different about this particular opportunity. If I was sending you information as a blueprint person, though, I would be laying out the details, what you can expect, the structure, the processes, the individual steps that I was going to go through. I would make sure that I was early for the appointment, at least 10 minutes early for the appointment. I would be dressed very traditionally. I wouldn't be high-fiving them, which is more of an action-style greeting. I would be traditionally shaking hands with them. So the report that you're going to get back, if you invest 90 seconds in taking the bank personality style assessment, that little test, will be a 20-page report showcasing your preferred communication style first, how you like to be communicated with, and then the three primary others. And there's two others. One is called the knowledge personality, which is very much about science and logic and technology. And the other one is a nurturer. And these are the people that are very talkative in your presentations. So you want to allow extra time for them because they want to share all about their family. And they're all involved with the community. They're very big on contribution and harmony and personal growth and significance in their work. So if your office actually does a social enterprise matching of a donation or has parties and charitable events, you're going to get the attention of the nurturer much quicker because they care about the community. So that report is actually, it'll show you how you can actually increase your sales by 300. Because when you know the personality code of the person that you're talking to, you can actually talk in their language. It's like these two opposites. It's like French and German. If I was talking French to this person in German in a German language, I'm not going to have very good communications with them because they're so different. And I've seen significant results with working with this just in the first few weeks of working with it. And I got so excited about it that I took coach certification in it just recently because I really saw the alignment between my business working on communications and what this report could offer. It's fascinating. And then just one more thing, it even goes into a technology tool in the back end. So when you get your report, I get a report too, and I know which code you are, which is really helpful for me to communicate with you in your preferred style. And then also on LinkedIn, I can actually now load up a Chrome extension where I can push one button, and on LinkedIn, where it has the overview of the person's role, it will take that and it will decode it for me. So I don't even have to always have the person's email or information to get them to take the test. I can actually click a button and it'll pick it up from what's written in the LinkedIn profile.
That's great. And I know we'll put this up at the end, but you are making this very generous offer where people can get their own test and complimentary by Doug, maybe you can put that back up so they can see the number again. If you could just text code to the number that you see on the bottom of your screen, Yvonne has made this a real gift. And it does literally take 90 seconds. So I have some questions. And I don't remember when I took the test, it doesn't say like biology. So this is how Yvonne knows how she's going to sell you. Like, if I were to send this out to potential clients, talk a little bit about what they think they're taking and getting and why they're doing it.
Yeah, basically, what I actually have this built into my e-calendar now. So I invite people to book an appointment, and also for me to help serve them better and have more effective communications, encouraging them to invest 90 seconds, take this personality style test, and you'll receive your own report as well. And then it's setting up the conversation for success before we've even spoken, because if they're not willing to do that, take 90 seconds to have a more constructive conversation, that tells me some information about them as well. But also, it does create that window for me to have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about them. I get back my report, but they also get this 20-page report that's really intriguing reading for them, telling them about their preferred style. It can be used in business, and it was designed specifically by someone who was actually selling financial services and wasn't very successful doing it. And so she actually took a bunch of the typical psychology tests and then re-engineered the test because she knew that she'd taken all these tests and they hadn't actually helped her increase her sales at all. And that was what she wanted to do. So she reverse engineered it, looked at buying styles and said, I wonder if different personalities buy things differently. And over the course of about 3 years, evolved this system, tested it out, and her results skyrocketed to making over, I think she went from 70,000 to 500,000 in about 3 years, and then just continued to climb from there. So they get their own report, which they love. It's the $99 value, but you can gift it to them, which is always a great way to start a relationship in the energy of reciprocity. And it is about effective communication. So you can use these same things with your kids, with your family members, anyone that you're having a conversation with. If you understand what excites them, then it's a much easier conversation because you're talking their language.
I could so see advisors using this with their clients and then sharing this information with their whole team. So no matter who's answering the phone, then they could look up, it could be in their CRM system, this person's whatever the four types are. What
Yep.
I a couple things. One I really liked about it, sometimes these personality things, or if you're supposed to like know how to sell to a driver or this or that, they felt so confusing to me. Like I could never remember all that. And so I'm
Mhm.
intrigued. And then I'm like, this was much more simple and in a
Yep.
good way, not simple in a not effective way.
Yep.
Um, do you ever
And so
use the personnel? Go ahead.
well, what I was going to say is these four little cards. I mean, I take them everywhere I go. They're in my pocket. They're in my purse. Um, and so very often, what I'll do when I'm first meeting someone is, if I am meeting in person, which of course is not happening much in COVID these days, I will actually hand them across to them and say, before we get started, I'd love to know a little bit more about you, and this is actually something that will help us to communicate more effectively. Can you just take a quick look at these cards and put them in the order that the values resonate for you? And they'll just do it right there and then. And they can obviously not get the report right away by doing it that way. They need to do the online one, but you could actually offer to set that up for them. And with their permission, just pop their email in, and then they'll get the report emailed to them afterwards. But at least you have the information for the first part of your conversation
Yeah, I
with them.
love that. And I love um, that advisors could set the stage like communication is important, not like
Yes.
my annuity is important, my asset allocation is important. Yes, but they don't care. They assume you're going to give them a good solution if you get far enough in the process. But to set the stage near the beginning of a relationship, how important communication is just so beautiful. One of the questions I had was, could this be a screening thing? Like if someone was one of these personality types that because you're self-reflective, it just is not a good fit. Not that you couldn't do it, but it's just not enjoyable and fun. Could someone use it as a screening that way? Like, oh gosh, if they're really this way, if they're really emotional and talkative, and that drives me crazy, or if they're really technical and by the letter of the book and they need so much detail, I'm probably not the right person for them. Do you see people using it that way in sales too?
Absolutely. My favorite people to deal with are nurturer and action types because they make decisions fast and they make decisions based on emotion. Whereas one of the first clients that I never would have worked with, I think I would have gotten frustrated with the length of the sales cycle, was actually a primary knowledge person. And she asked me so many questions. She wanted all of my references. She wanted the email, the phone number. She wanted me to reach out to them ahead of time. She asked me this. She asked me that. Who's my coach? Who's my mentor? I mean, she really wanted everything before she made the decision. And obviously, the investment in my coaching was, for her, it was a lot of money. And so she really needed to reassure that she was minimizing her risk. So when you know the personality code, then you can actually decide, am I booking this person on a Monday or am I booking them on a Friday? Because I want to get through my action connections first, because they're going to be making more swift decisions. But when you're skilled at it, and that's why I took the coaching in it, you can learn how to flex. So you can actually work with anybody. You just have to know what their style is. If you have challenges connecting with your kids, especially teenagers, for example, it might be that your teenager is actually a blueprint personality and you're an action. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you're an action and they're a blueprint. Um, in which case, they're going to want to do completely different family events than you would. Go on holiday, it's going to be an argument because you want to do one thing and they want to do something else because they're motivated by different things.
It's great. Thank you. This is fascinating and easy. And I hope all of you out there watching this, whether you're an advisor or not, I know we have people in all different kinds of businesses that you take advantage of this. And um, Yvonne, I want to get the title. Tell us the title of your book again. Words, Women, and Wisdom, The
Yeah.
Modern Art of Confident Conversations. It's an international bestseller. It's, I'm assuming, available on Amazon. Where would people find this, Yvonne?
Yep, it's on Amazon. It's also available on my website as well, but Amazon is the best place. And basically, it's this book here. So it's
Good.
40 different
Perfect
words and word
author.
concepts, and it's got some sections in there that are more oriented, obviously, to women, and yet some of these other concepts, like appreciative inquiry, really do apply to anybody in business, no matter what your level or gender.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And I hope all of you out there look up Yvonne and her work. And it's fabulous. And I'm really grateful for this information today. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you,
And for
Ellen, for
all
the
of you,
opportunity.
yes, for all of you out there who are watching this live or watching it on the recording, I am so grateful that you're here. And we're Tuesday each week, we're having live shows. I hope you'll join in. And if you can't be here live, watch the recordings. And if you want more information about me, you can find that at ellenrogan.com. And if you go to ellenrogan.com/horse's mouth, I have a special report for you about what clients crave. And I'm updating that all the time. So I encourage you to go get that. It's a complimentary report. And I'm just previewing, I'm very excited. There's going to be a new program that I'm launching with Horse's Mouth this fall called The Extraordinary Advisor. And we're going to have more information on that for you in the next few weeks. So keep your eye out for that. And as always, so grateful that you're here. And the question to ponder today is, how big of a positive impact are you willing to make? And remember,